if you have to, but let everybody play what they want to play. The cheer you hear is because at the far top left of your screen, Dafran is picking one hero we have not seen in the Overwatch League. He's on the Torb. It's hammer time.
So, just to talk about a little about these compositions, you have to think about, first of all, Atlanta obviously is not playing like a meta composition here, right? So, what is the hero that would normally kind of be played instead of Torbjorn in this specific example? Chat, answer it now. McCree, thank you. Gray2W got it first. So yeah, McCree is normally what would be played in this situation instead of Torbjorn. But what does McCree actually kind of provide to a team? What it's going to be doing is giving you, of course, the CC, but in general, it's long-range poke damage. So if you can land your shots on Torbjorn, you're going to be able to be pretty effective. Torbjorn is going to be worse at kind of like the mid-ranges. On this map, there is no long ranges unless you're playing Pharah, because the sightlines simply aren't long enough, which is why this map is usually quite good for McCree, because everything, all of the sightlines are just like perfectly McCree-sized. So Dafran here, a Torbjorn switch, if you're looking at it in terms of the frame of like what does the Torbjorn do better than the McCree, is that the McCree is going to lose some CC, but his like overdrive, what is the actual E ability on Torbjorn called? I don't even know, man. But it's going to make him a lot less of a diveable character. So he's going to be able to survive that. And other than that, it's just memes. And in the closer range fights, he's going to have his shotgun. Overload? Overload. Okay. Do you know how many times during the community countdown I had to stop myself from saying molten load? Yeah, thanks, Siegel, for that one. But yeah, so like the overload ability on Torbjorn is pretty good for like 1v1s and for surviving things like being dove and whatnot. So it's really not the worst substitution in the world. It is a little bit memey, but hey, that's kind of like what they're doing is they're just replacing like McCree with the Torbjorn. And this is going to be, so the idea with this is that when you have the Lucio and the Orisa, the main thing that people always talk about when you're playing Orisa, like chat, what are the two supports that you would play with an Orisa on things like King's Row first point defense or Hollywood first point defense? You know, what are the two supports that you would normally use with an Orisa? Mercy Zen. You know, Mercy Zen. Ana Zen is okay too, but normally it's Mercy Zen. You know, Mercy can damage boost, for example, your Hanzo, and the Zen can give you defensive support ult as well as some really long-range poke, and the kind of the Orisa existing gives him some pretty good safe place to just kind of generally exist. So the question is, why are we playing Lucio Zen? You know, Atlanta Reign, they don't really, I don't know what's in the water down there, but you've got an Orisa, somebody who likes to set up in a static location with a shield, but then you've also got a Lucio that likes to move around really fast. So Atlanta is obviously dumb, right? There's no possible reason that you could possibly, like, there's just no reason to run a Lucio and Orisa together, right? At all. So speed the Orisa, yeah, but in what kind of situation, right? Reposition, whether it's rotating, is that they're going to be rolling out in a specific location, and when they see what the opponents have, they're going to be able to rotate and kind of like play merry-go-round or ring around the rosy of the center of the point. And they've got really high poke, and as long as they can kind of outpoke the opponent or kind of run away from them as they're burning cooldowns, then they should be able to win. That's like the Cole's Notes version of this composition.
He's going to be looking for some nails to hammer down. Let's see if we can find him. He's got a little grin going too. He knows what's up. He knows what's going on.
What makes Dafran a really good Torb, to be honest, is that his primary fire is so good. Yes, you have a turret, yes, you have all this, but that primary weapon, very difficult to master, but puts out a ton of damage if you can actually connect with it.
Exactly right, and it's got the two functions. You want to come close, turns into a shotgun pretty.
So whereas a McCree would have to like combat roll out and try and poke from a distance, they dive and Dafran's like, yes, finally! It's kind of like that picture of the dude who's on the top of the tank with like a giant broadsword. He's like, drive me closer so I can hit them with my sword. It's like Dafran. He's like, they're diving me. Perfect, I can use my shotgun.
Much, and you're going to start melting tanks, so let's see if Dafran's going to find anything to kick things off. Masa's already
finally, a worthy opponent.
Traded immediately.
Masa took down 2 tanks by himself, and that is going to be the opening point. Captured for the Atlanta Raid after some cleanup. Tanks coming in late there too, and an interesting strategy probably got Florida a little off guard, but you know, Dafran.
Yeah, the turret's just poking the entire time. They can rotate away from the dive after cooldowns are blown. Storm Arrow, Overload, Zenyatta is just going to melt the shit out of Swan as soon as that defense matrix down.
Dafran, he's getting close to that molten core for this next fight.
Got to give Masa a lot of credit there too. And if you see great ult tracking, it's because Masa, he's really highly regarded on his ability to keep track of how charged the enemy is and what abilities they have up.
So valuable going into this one. It's all about ult economy. The Dragons are out though as the engage comes through for Florida Mayhem. Immediately melted. Both tanks getting run over. Chris bodily mauled. And that's a very quick, clean fight here for Atlanta Reign to kick things off.
So just some comments about that is like in the neutral fight. So the neutral fight is going to be the one where like there's nobody in ultimates. So on an initial rollout, it's always a neutral fight, and then a neutral fight is also where both teams use all of their ultimates, and there's like no ultimates impacting a fight. So kind of like as a team, you have to have a plan for the neutral fight. But the first one during the neutral, Masa is going to be rotating Atlanta Reign all around the point in different locations, trying to kind of outmaneuver Florida Mayhem to make sure that they can't stage a dive on them. But in this fight here, you saw Erster. How do you pronounce it? Erster? Whatever. The Hanzo player. We'll call him that. He went behind, and then Atlanta just like stood still. They stood perfectly still because as soon as they get dove, Erster's just going to drop the dragon right on them. So Florida Mayhem will have burnt a lot of actual cooldowns, but they can't finish up on the kills or they're going to die to the dragon. And then with those cooldowns gone, just the sheer amount of damage and poke from the Atlanta Reign is just going to absolutely demolish them. So that was so they rotated during neutral, out-rotated them. The second time they're using the dragon as kind of like an anti-dive to kind of like zone them out away from their main kind of like core. And then the next time, I assume they're going to be using the molten core.
Team kill everybody out.
Dako was one of my favorite divas coming into this league who had not previously played in the Overwatch League. Very creative, will end up using a lot of abilities that you don't expect. A lot of diva players will fall into a similar style and they're predictable. Not Dako. He is a diva all his own.
So like the question here, like Florida Mayhem, kind of where is Swoon again? I gotta have a phonetic pronunciation sheet for these players. Anyway. So yeah, kind of like where is he? Especially when you're playing a composition like this, you want to kind of be having. You don't want to be going all together. Like it looks like goats, but you don't want to be all in the same location. Especially if you're doing something like a Zenyatta. So in this specific situation, Hagopun is kind of like playing with the rest of his team. But when they dive in, it's very likely that Hago takes like a different angle. Because if you are going to try and get some spam in and do anything other than just kind of like blindly spam it at Orisa Shield and do literally nothing, you're going to need to find an angle where you can actually be effective. So is Hago going to like split from his team at some point? He drops down, but I think he just...
Hands down.
So he's staying with the team.
Let's get into it now because they are looking for a new angle here. Florida trying to go for the...
So Swoon is main.
Wrap.
Have to be careful. Molten Core's up if they...
There's that dive. Ooh, nice boop from Masa.
all group up, you can just drop all the lava on him.
Exactly right. Doesn't hesitate once.
So yeah, like one of the main things that, like the first thing that I would change from like Florida Mayhem's play is Hago, right? So there's this nice Orisa Shield right here. And Hago moved through Mini to this location, and that's where Florida Mayhem dove from. But if Hago had stayed where he is right now, or stayed from here, he's safe, and he could have had a little bit of a better sightline, like a minor thing. But these things kind of have impact. And yes, that white molten load sure is something.
A lot of diva players will fall into a similar style, and they're predictable. Not Dako. He is a diva all his own.
Diva that's so key now in all of these rosters. That's what it's all about. Still pretty much the most picked hero, hands down.
Pretty high rate.
Well, let's get into it now because they are looking for a new angle here. Florida trying to go for the wrap.
Have to be careful. Molten Core's up. If they all group up, you can just drop all the lava on them.
Exactly right. Doesn't hesitate whatsoever. Dafran right now looking to do some damage. We did get a bomb going off. Swan is out of it. Trance thrown in here as well. And Dafran in the meantime will eliminate Zephyr. Still looking good here for Atlanta despite Florida's best efforts.
It's looking great here. The turret sometimes can just serve as a distraction because you have to deal with it. Dafran uses the ability to get in there. He's got Soundberry up on him just looking for more targets, but he's out of people to eliminate.
This is so much fun. Bongos are down as well, but it is going to take over here. Can Florida Mayhem make it back in time to tap the point?
Swan's in position.
We have Swan in position. He's got Primal as well. Body block. I like it, and they get the kill. Perfectly done. What a sick play from Taco.
Looking to lock it out. Desperation time as Florida will throw all abilities they have. No use trying to save them for the next round coming into it. They do have some stall potential here. As Swan, if he can get back, will let Primal Rage buys enough time, but all the kills are going in favor of Atlanta right now. Tavik finally takes out Dafran, gives him his first death.
Dogman, no.
First death, and it's looking like Florida at the very end will be able to flip it. They will bring this back their way. Had to throw a lot into this fight, however, but we're going to see some swaps. No hesitation. One kill on Torb, or one death rather, and Dafran is going to go ahead and swap over, and now we're going to go into one of the more tried and true strategies here.
So there's like a few things here. The main thing is that like what the Atlanta Reign playstyle is an anti-dive, and they played this really well. Like their neutral was really good with their rotations, and then they weren't really doing very like, you know, I call it a bait, but in terms of like, you know, how large of an IQ was this bait? You know, or how deceptive are they beating? Did they actually trick the opponent into diving them or anything like that? There was no real trick. Atlanta was just prepared for it. So the first fight, they won based off of kind of just better rotations in the neutral. Second one, they're using the dragon to zone it out. And then the third one, they used both the bomb as well as the molten core to kind of prevent them from being successful in those dives. So if you... Yeah, it's especially hard for like a Winston to really do much against this sort of composition. You know, and the Torbjorn does have merit with that overload ability, kind of giving him extra health as well as armor, making the divers do even less damage to him, a little less pressure on the supports as well. But, you know, so as the name implies, you know, if you are going to be doing, and certainly it's not impossible for the Florida Mayhem to win against Atlanta Reign with like in the same compositional matchup. This isn't like a hard counter by any means. It's not like Atlanta Reign, you know, with the Torbjorn of all things, has finally found a hard counter to whatever Florida Mayhem, like the Winston Goats variant of it. If you played Winston Goats better, you could have won that matchup. And then why Atlanta Reign is kind of like swapping off of the actual Torbjorn for the retake, it's kind of that if they had lost the first fight with the Torbjorn, they would have swapped off right then and there. There's compositions that are like okay in the neutral, better on attack, better on retake, like better holding and defending or betting trying to retake. And Torbjorn is like Torbjorn and Orisa, not the greatest at retaking. So, you know. And then when you are talking about like the Goats composition itself, two of the highest damage dealers are going to be the Zarya and the Zenyatta.
For Atlanta Reign.
I mean, boo. I wanted to see more territory.
Yeah, seriously.
Zarya is so important in these compositions, one of the higher picked heroes as well. We'll see if Dafran can do it. We mentioned mechanically gifted, and it's mostly with signature.
Interesting they're staying on Orisa, though.
Hero with Soldier 76, which relies a lot on tracking. As does Zarya, it might be able to translate.
Self-destruct to initiate, straight into the back, easily.
Good bubbles from Dafran.
Good work coming in here from Atlanta Reign.
Aggressive trance from Dogman.
To this fight, though, will get traded back by Tvik with the rally. Both support ults getting committed, and right now we're just hunting for a kill. Plenty of places to hunt. That bomb, but Tvik still goes boom.
That is such a Daco Diva play. He has such creative self-destructs, usually just to get his mech back or create space. A bonus kill there later. Daco yet to be eliminated this round, has 17 eliminations, 9 final blows.
Well, don't jinx the man.
The Assassin Diva, and this is going to be taking down. We do still have a few of the Florida Mayhem in position here. Hammond into it, the hamster looking to go and flatten somebody, but it's not going to happen. And for now, they just need to keep tapping this point. They need to keep buying time. Florida Mayhem. Zephyr is here now on the point, but he's all by his lonesome. They're boosted up. He's not going to be around for long. And the overtime wick keeps burning down. But some good time bought here. And Florida Mayhem may be able to get back and just continue this fight one after another. They're just trickling in. Good focus fire coming in here from Atlanta Reign. And it is looking like they'll get a grip on things and take the advantage in this first match.
Hamster in the hole goes
wow,
down.
quite the stagger. I wasn't expecting it to be this long. Nice. And if chat was wondering about kind of like what we were talking about with Dafran's chair earlier, it says Dafran's chair, do not use or remove. So this is the clip that showed up on Reddit. But long story short, it's just because his chair doesn't have armrests. There was one moment in here which is kind of interesting. So, where is it? Where is it? So yeah, here.
They have no use trying to save them for the next round coming into it. They do have some stall potential here as Swannaby can get back. Will that Primal Rage buys enough time, but all the kills are going in favor of Atlanta right now. Tavik finally takes out Dafran, gives him his first death.
So they use Grav here, and Dogman's only about like 66% to Transcendence, but the choice to actually aggressively trance later on, right here.
Zarya, it might be able to translate.
Self-destruct to initiate, straight into the back, easily dodged, however. Good work coming in here.
So this is kind of like really good decision making. It's, you know, you'd have to look at this more often, but this is something that you could look at for like a tendency that they're tracking, like they're tracking ultimates obviously very well, and they're super confident in knowing when they can actually use trance aggressively like this. So this is just kind of like a good thing. I'm not sure who's actually tracking the ultimates for the Atlanta Reign or who's shot calling, and that was like a pretty easy example of it. But this sort of Transcendence aggressive usage would never ever be used before if they knew that kind of like BQB had the Graviton. So not only are they using it aggressively here, but they also know that Masa is going to have the barrier before BQB gets his next Graviton. So just kind of like good ult tracking and good shot calling from the Atlanta Reign to go aggressive like this. And this is kind of like, you know, this is just such a confident play. There's no hesitation. There's no second guessing. Like that bomb comes out, Dafran bubbles to survive it because the Orisa shield couldn't be positioned in a good enough place. They survive. They immediately go aggressive with Transcendence, kind of force them back in this area. There's the bomb in order to get the kill on Tavik as well. So this is just like a good exchange for the Atlanta Reign.
From Atlanta Reign, they decide to commit the Transcendence to this fight, though. Will get traded back by Tvik with the rally. Both support ults getting committed, and right now we're just hunting for a kill. Plenty of places to hide from that bomb, but Tavik still goes boom.
That is such a Dako Devo play. He has such creative self-destructs, usually just to get his mech back or create space. A bonus kill there later. Dako yet to be eliminated this round, has 17 eliminations, 9 final blows. What a Diva play.
Yeah, the Assassin Diva, and this is...
And I see what you guys are saying with like Masa being the shot caller or anything like that, but on a team, like on an actual Overwatch League team, there's never going to be, well, not never, unless you're Fusions, there's never going to be like just one shot caller, especially when you're dealing with kind of the situation of a Zenyatta's trance or something like that, something that is so critically important to surviving. You know, something like using Zenyatta's trance or communicating about like the order of support ultimates or things like that. Those are usually either called by the individual that kind of has the ultimate. So even though Masa might be like the overall shot caller or something like that, you know, when Dafran has Graviton, Masa isn't calling for the exact execution of the Graviton. You know, so this play happening like in the middle, or where was it? Yeah. So this play happening kind of like mid-fight and not as like an aggressive engage with it shows that it was probably like this, at least a situation like this shows that kind of Atlanta has good communication, you know, confidence in their team and their abilities. So yeah, Masa might be like the overall shot caller or something like that, but everyone's going to be able to talk and communicate. And somebody who has like the big value ultimates like Dafran, like Dogman, they should be normally kind of like communicating and taking, you know, a little bit more authority and control over their own ultimates rather than having that kind of micromanaged by Masa. Explain the Fusions joke. So Fusions is just a really extremely aggressive, loud, authoritative shot caller. So a few of my friends were at the arena, and they were in the back rows of the arena during the New York versus the Boston game, and they could hear Fusions shot calling over the game sounds, over the casters from the back of the stage. So Fusions is just very loud, overpowering, and it's kind of like a one-man show with how he micros his teammates. And it happened at the World Cup as well. Like when we were at the World Cup, scrimming near them was challenging because whether we were scrimming Team UK or somebody else, we could always hear Fusions just screaming his brains out. So, okay, that was a fun map. That was a fun map.